All right, guys. Here we are again. So yeah, that was quite a bit unfortunate. If you look closely down to the right in the corner where the time is, um, you might notice it won't make sense, and that is because it's actually a day later. I don't know what's wrong with Unreal right now or with the baking, but I did some production bakes and it like just crashed shortly afterwards, and so yeah, it took me a day to get this baked because of all those issues. So now it's actually Sunday, and here we are. Um, just a couple of quick things because I had these struggles yesterday with like getting the scene to properly bake. I just fooled around a tiny little bit, and I did three or four things that I just want to quickly share with you because I just like fooled around a bit and was like, ah, okay, let's keep it like that, and then I just baked. So only minor changes. But you might remember that this light source here, I actually turned it into a light that uses temperature of 4000 Kelvin. I did the same thing for the lights down here. So they were like neutral, slightly bluish even before. So now they're all 4000 Kelvin, a little bit warmer. I did the same thing here. So if you look at the big lights top here, I also made them warmer. So they're all 4000 Kelvin now. Back here on the wall, there was like a weird thing sticking out, so I just took like another rock and put it in front here to just hide that. And remember, we did this metal material for these tubes here, and as you can see, I just applied that same material to a part of this mesh here as well. So you can see like this just looks quite a bit more sexy than it did before. You get some nice specular reflections, some nice material definitions. It just like pops a bit more. So, well, yeah, that's the things that those are the things that I just changed quickly. All right. So, I also noticed. Okay. Yeah, I also changed the emissive material here to reflect the orange. And I just noticed that it fucked up these ones here. So, and those ones as well. So, what we're gonna do. That's interesting. So yeah, we're just gonna fix that quickly before we continue, so we can make sure that we have everything we need. So I'm just gonna um, copy this one and call it blue. Alright, so now we can just take these. Oh, that's nice, they're actually all one. Okay, cool. So we just drop the blue emissive in here. And I want to do the same thing here as well. But where does this light actually come from? Where is that material ID? Why is it all just... Whoa. Uh-huh. Where is that emissive thingy? That one? Okay, that's interesting. This is very interesting. Where does it get that information from? Oh, I see. Very interesting. Okay, cool. So let's do it like this then. So right now those lights are actually turned off. Um, but what I want to do now is I just want to wrap up the scene. So just want to go through a couple of last things to do, and yeah, just clean all that stuff up in general. So yeah, all right, and this one. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it because I don't wanna spend like a lot of time and wasting on all the animation side of things. But I mean, obviously, you would need to update all that stuff as well. Okay. So I want a little bit more of this kind of light. Yeah. Okay. So, um, what I want to do is r.ssr. I just want to like add some little atmospheric touches here, additionally, just to make this pop a little bit more. So basically, we have a lot of moisture in the air here. So it's this very wet environment, but we also have like warm stuff coming from the machinery, probably, which is why we have like some haze and some steam in here, you know. So I kind of like want to push that a tiny little bit more. And what we actually need for that is, let's search for this. We have this God Ray blueprint. The thing is this, I recommend building proper stuff for your scenes, which is kind of like, I'm not saying that this is not appropriate, but like, or not proper, but the thing is, this is like a God Ray. So it's meant for God rays. It's a little bit like what I want to do is I want to fake light cones. Um, but if you do this properly, again, you would actually build a cone mesh because like the thing is the light, the God ray, it's just a flat plane that rotates with the camera. So basically, if we would have this on this light, so it would look good from here. But if we would do this, then we would get nothing because the plane would be totally flat. And what you want is you still want to have this kind of like volumetric cone shape coming out of the light. So for lights like this, you should actually make a proper cone to fake some volumetrics. But we are not gonna do that now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drag in this blueprint, and here you can see that's the ray. Alright, so it's fairly huge. It also becomes less visible when you get closer. Um, so there are a couple of values that we can tweak. I'm not gonna use this one here because I wanna rotate it custom based on the lights coming out from here. And here you can see how the plane rotates with the view. So if you're looking like this, you will not really see the God ray or the cone, however you want to call it. So let's move it up a bit. And so the fade distance is the distance where it like starts fading. So if I go closer and we reduce this value, you can see that it becomes more and more visible, and now it starts fading when you get a lot closer. So whoops, let's put this at 1024. I also want to do spotlight, so you can see how the texture of this changes. I want to have it kind of like this, probably. I'm not yet entirely sure. And we need to see if we like the width. What we definitely want is we want to turn it more bluish, kind of like this. All right. So we're just gonna move this one out of the way a little bit. And the first thing that we're gonna do is we will turn on these lights here. So they're both set to movable. And they have shadows. So, bam. We also have the temperature, so they're like bluish. Okay. I also don't want to have them like too bright. So what we can do now is we can take this light and we can take the rotation value. We can click our blueprint and we can paste in the rotation. And now what we're getting is like this kind of thing here. Let's just copy and paste that one over. So we do have this particle here as well. I think it's this one. Yep. So I think we should just like move some of that stuff a bit. It's not really that visible here. And that's because it's a lit particle. So when there's not a lot of lighting information, they become fairly dark, as you can see here. So, and those ones, they're now way too bright. So what we will do is, oops, just take so, and this is very, very strong. So what we want to do is we want to do something like this. All right, where you see like this really, it's very, very subtle, but it helps to get some more volumetric feeling in here. What we can also do is I've built these kind of like simple volumetric spheres. Um, so that's something that I built for another project, and it's based on stuff that Ryan Brooks did, and also Kula, who is using a similar approach for doing like fake volumetrics for his Cat Venture project. Um, so what that basically is, I have a sphere that looks like this, that has normals that point inwards, like you can see, right? So if you're inside the sphere, I get the sphere, and outside it looks like this. So that's the mesh that I'm using. And then I have a material that does the simple volumetric logic, and the material looks like this. So it's a additive shader, it is unlit shading model. Very, very important under translucency, it has disable depth test checked, and it has separate translucency unchecked. And so I get like some emissive color in here. I have a density multiplier, and basically this logic here um, is doing some Fresnel masking, depth testing stuff on the sphere itself. And what that does is, I'm going to show it to you. So let me just quickly open the mesh again, and then I have a material instance. Whoop. I need to save that one. So, and now I can drag this sphere in. Whoop. So, and I hope you can see what's kind of happening here. So, do you see this kind of like volumetric dot, like this volume that I'm like moving around here? I will make it more visible. So, let's scale it down a bit. Here's my material instance. So, here it is. You can see the little dot. So, I can like do something like this. So now you can see like this is kind of like this volumetric glow in the atmosphere, and you can like enter it so it doesn't like go away. So now I'm inside of the sphere, and that's the idea behind the flipped normals, right? And I can change like the fall off of the gradient, so you can do something like this. And now you can see it's kind of like this fake volumetric thing, right? So I can't even click it. um, so here it is. So, and you can see like it kind of collides nicely with geometry as well. So it has like the soft fading and all that stuff. And so what I want to do is I actually want to use this here on those lights to add some of that kind of like glow that you get from lights in a air that is very moist. And the thing is, like, normally people kind of like fake that with bloom, but bloom is not meant for that stuff. So you should normally not fake this kind of stuff with bloom, because this is like volumetric lighting, right? And it's way better to do this with proper volumetrics than with bloom. So now you can see how I get this kind of like volumetric lighting effect here. So I'm gonna move it over to this light as well. However, we would actually need to animate this, but I will not do this now. So because this light is flickering, so we actually would like to have this animated so the fake volumetric flickers with it as well. And you can see how drastically this improves the atmospheric feel of those lights. So let's do this. And I mean, this looks so much better if we have some of that volumetrics happening here. So much nicer. And so we're gonna copy some more. And we're gonna do the same thing for this one here. So I want to do actually a multi-layered approach for this one. Sounds super fancy, but it's not. So basically I just want to add this one kind of like close to here, kind of like this, to give this kind of soft glow here. Right. Kind of like this. So now you can actually see how nice this combines with the blue and the orange ones. I think this like really like this looks very nice. So we got some more glow here as well. And what I will also do is I will nope. Well, take this one then. I will copy that one over. Alright, and then let's just rotate this by 90. So now what we need is we actually gonna set the brightness back. Gonna set this to a warmer color like this. Yeah, I will go for this one again. And now I will basically do something like this. And we're just gonna put this here as well. So, I know it doesn't match the rotation of the light mesh, but it matches the rotation of the light itself. So I'm kind of like fine with this. It's not perfectly accurate, but it does not matter so much right now. Okay. Yeah, it's not the most beautiful solution because I dare to start like touching the material now and tweaking all that stuff. I want to wrap this up now. But again, as I said in the beginning, if you build like a proper cone mesh and stuff like that, you will have a way better time of making something that actually looks really, really nice. So this is not that perfect now, but there's worse. Okay. All right. Um, uh, let's do this. Okay, here we got it. So I'm gonna copy some more of these. I mean, obviously we can change the colors and stuff and make new instances, but I'm trying to solve as many as I can with the stuff that I have at hand right now. Whoops. So something like this maybe. So you can see now I'm inside of the volumetric, and you can see that I'm like my camera is totally affected by it, and now it gets affected less. So it's really really cool because it gives you this kind of localized fog. Just compare now the right side where I have the local fog and the left one where I don't have it. So it's actually quite a difference. So we can bring that one in here as well. Maybe push it back a little so it's not as extreme. So something like this maybe. All right. Um, what I also want to do is not that stuff, but this stuff. Let's see. I thought it might be cool just like trying to add some more of that stuff here maybe. But it's not that visible, sadly. And I wanted to try to add some of this stuff. Like here. Just to get like a little bit more going on in the shot here. Okay, and I'm going to tweak the material a little bit. At least I think I'm gonna do that. Okay, so let's see what we can do with the opacity. It's interesting that we don't really pick up more here. I have to say I'm not really a pro when it comes to particles and stuff. So it's a little bit tricky. I I just don't know all the stuff in regards to particles because yeah, I mean most of the time I worked in teams where someone was able to kind of like help with those things anyways. But like I don't know right now why it's kind of like working here, but why it's like so tricky to get it working here because I do have lighting samples, I do have light sources hitting the stuff. So like sometimes I guess that I might need to go into something in Cascade. Maybe it's not only um, how the material's set up, but maybe it's also how some values are used in here. Like for example, there's the particle color hooked up, and I think that I need to, yeah, look at this stuff here. Distribution constant, blah blah blah. Okay, I'm doing something here. So yeah, 0.8. Let's do 1, 1.5. So now it actually got more visible. Okay, so anyways, um, just gonna save this one out. So, and for some annoying reason, I need to bake lighting again. Why? I didn't do anything. Yeah, this is something that annoys me sometimes. That you like you just work and then sometimes it's like, hey, rebuild lighting. It's like, what? I didn't do anything. But maybe it's because I didn't flag the spheres. But they're like translucent, so it shouldn't matter. But yeah, I can imagine that maybe the spheres that I added for the simple volumetric stuff here, um, that they basically just I think I don't have the box checked for them to be like completely super unlit, so maybe that's that. But yeah, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Where is my, yeah? So I'll just take this one again. Oh yeah, see now it increased to 52 unbuilt objects. So we're just gonna ignore that because we know that it's these spheres, and I just wanna add something more in here. Just a tiny little bit. Yeah, like this. Yep, this is okay. Alright. I'm gonna select all of the spheres now and boop, 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 boop. So, if we deactivate those checkboxes, you can see now all the lighting bake stuff just disappeared because, yeah, it's not really needed. Okay, so I think that I'm basically set up for the grading. I want to do two more things because I just want to try it quickly. Here we have these panels and they have quite some lit keyboards, and I just want to see how it would look like if we would add some nice little highlight here. Um, so I'm just gonna add this light here. Kinda like this. And I'm gonna turn it to movable and maybe 500. Nope. 200. Yeah, more like that. So kind of like this. So the cool thing is we also get like a little bit more response now for the smoke here. Maybe drag it over a tiny bit. So now we got this one here. I'm just going to duplicate it over to the other one as well. So I think like something like this. Was it always like that with these particles here? Ah, cool. So something like this. We get this one selected, and we take this one too. And we darken it a bit. So something like this. So you can see we also get like the nice highlight from it. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is I got my material here for the sphere. I'm gonna duplicate it, and I'm gonna take this one here, and I'm gonna drag it out. I'm gonna apply the other material, and I'm gonna turn it into this color. And I'm just gonna copy the translations values. So just copy this, and then we go to this sphere here. Gonna paste it here. All right. Cool. So I think we need to like place this a little bit better. Kinda like this. Same goes for this one. And we will also reduce the density to something like this. We just want it kind of subtle, you know. We just want to have something from it, but we don't want it to be like super in your face. And okay. So I think this is actually it. Let's move that over here a bit. So if we look into lighting only, now we can see that we actually have tons of cool stuff going on here. So this is really good. This is what we want to see. We get like our nice gradients coming into the cave. We have a dark cave. We got like the bright spots coming here from the ceiling, from the holes. Um, we have our cool lights back here, generating some extra pop. Um, and we mainly have our warm lighting from the artificial lights. This one looks really cool now. We got like some really cool contrasts here. We have like the orange warm lighting, and we got these blue highlights and accents to kind of like break it up here. Also, we have a pretty decent light mass bake. So if we look at all that, that looks more or less good. I mean, we can still optimize it, but that would be really fixing the light maps and stuff like that. So, but if we just look at it like this, I'm actually really, really happy. Um, oh yeah, one other thing. Sorry for that. Like when I told you guys that I like updated some of these things while I tried to get the bake done. I did not only change those colors to warm, I also added like green little lights here. So, yeah, just so I told you. So yeah, and you can see this adds a nice little touch here and more believability. And those are static, by the way. So those are fully static lights because the rest actually comes from the screen space reflections. And it's not so bright that it would be good to have a specular response here. So yeah, that's it with the lighting job for now. So now we're gonna do a post pass. So for that we go into our post volume here. One thing that I want to do quickly. So this is one shot that I made yesterday before we started actually. So that was when we started this session. I'm just gonna copy that into Photoshop so I can take new shots so we can just like see a little bit the progress of what we're doing when we grade the shot. I hate this stuff here. I really wanna. I saw like this post somewhere in the forums that it's actually you can't change this stuff to the old interface because I'm like super annoyed by this interface change. It's like, man, Adobe, you got like the perfect new document interface for like 25 years or something, and now you need to change it for the worse. It's like really horrible. Okay, so this is what we started out with. Just gonna close it down. So, let's have a look at this here. And let's just take a new screen. Just gonna paste it in here. It really starts looking good. It's pretty nice. I like it. Obviously, one thing that I want to say is like some things you can, of course, tweak them further. And not everything that you see here is perfect. Like some tiny little lights might be a little bit too bright, others might be a little bit too dark. Um, I mean, if I would do this in a way of like, hey, this is the game that I would ship in the end or something like that. I mean, it would be so much more time consuming, and I could make like gazillions of hours of videos. So just as a quick heads up here, so I mean I have a change in perspective. I just noticed because I changed the ratio. So yeah, so here is actually more, but it's just a different aspect ratio now. But you can see we really improved this a lot, right? This looks all over the place. It's hard to read. This one looks so much better. You got the clear focus on the stuff here, and this one just fades in nicely. This one also, I really start loving it. It starts to look really, really good. And the atmospherics, they add so much. Because, I mean, like, the exponential height fog, it's great, but you can't have localized stuff with it. So that's just the downside. All right, so first of all, how do we start? I'll prefer to work my way down. So basically, I start with the top hierarchy and then I work my way down. So if we go into the color grading section here, the first thing that we have is the white balance. The tone mapper stuff here, we will not really touch it because there's actually a new talk from Epic about the new tone mapper, and I recommend everyone that is interested in lighting and stuff like that watch it. It's like 1 hour and 20 minutes, but it's so fully packed with knowledge. It's amazing, and it explains to you what the tone mapper actually does and how it works, and why you should not touch these values. So let's start with the white balance. So the white balance, that is basically what you have in a camera as well, right? When you balance your image out. So we can make the image warmer, which adds more yellow, as you might have noticed. And that turns our ice into something green. The thing is, I don't want to do teal and orange. Not because someone suggested to not do it, but because it's so overused anyways. And the thing is this, we have ice. Ice is blue, mostly because of the scattering and stuff like that. And then we have orange tubes, we have orange lights, we have orange paint, we have red lights. So actually the scene is basically predestined to become teal and orange. So let's try to not make it super teal and orange in your face. So I actually want to have green. I thought about that. I was like, maybe you guys know Amélie, the French movie. And the prime colors of that movie are red and green. So it's always like red and green. That's like their complementary contrast that they're using for that movie. And I thought like, hey, let's try something like that, but maybe not as strong as Amélie. So what I want to do is we actually kind of like want to colden it a little bit first. So now I just made the image colder because I like what it does to the reds. I kind of like it when the reds become slightly desaturated and purple a tiny little bit. So if you just compare this again, I personally like that a lot. So now you're asking, so hey, but why are you making it blue now and not like start with the green? And I will explain this to you because I want to lay out a cold color first, and then I want to start pushing some values in. I'm not using tint. This like just offsets the colors into like weird things. It's like mostly it becomes green or magenta. Ooh. So I'm not gonna use that one now. So now I want to use the global tools first. So the next thing that I'm gonna try is I will lower saturation. Let's try 0.75. So depending on the compression of the video and stuff like that, you might not see all the things that I do as nicely as I see them. So let's have a look at that. So that's without desaturation, and that's with. So we're just trying to get a little bit of color out here. And I will start tweaking the contrast a tiny little bit later. If we look what gamma does, we can do like these things. I'm not so sure if I want that though. And gain is interesting. It's like gain is like it keeps the dark values and just like expands the histogram more towards high values, and offset basically does the same thing, but it just takes all the values and offsets them. So if you choose offset, it takes the the low values and pushes them up as well. So just oh no, that was gain. Sorry, offset is here. You can see how it offsets and the dark values become not dark anymore. Um, anyways, so what I would like to do is I would like to use gain and bring some subtle green in. Did you see that? Like, it's really just, it's a tiny little bit green that I added. Kind of like this. And so now what I want to do is I want to go into the midtones, into gain, and now what I want to do is I want to add some of this. Do you see how I can add this like redness or these other colors back in here? And I only want to do this like super subtle, kind of like this maybe. So if we compare it, we kind of like shift these values around a bit. I might want to go into my global gain and add a tad more green to it, kind of like this. And maybe I want to reduce this tweak a little bit here in the midtones and go into the highlights, into gain, and see what happens here. Is like if I go into these highlights where it's affecting them. So I think I just want to push some more warmth into these highlights here. And now I notice that I'm not yet happy with the saturation. So I like having that subtle desaturated look over here, but I think I want more saturation over here. So what I will try now is I will go into the midtones and into saturation, and let's see what happens when I try to saturate the midtones more. Yep, I think this helps a bit. Let's see what happens when we go into our highlights. Yeah. No, that's not what I want. Okay. I will push back the green a little bit. More like this. Okay. Let's take another screenshot. I think I really like this shot. I really, really, really like the way this looks. So I think this is not. Yeah, I might not be totally happy with that. So we can try something else. But that's the thing, right? Like you need to try and see how the things work the way you want them to be. So so this is with the new grading, and that is the old version. I think I like this one actually more. Okay, so back to back to one. We removed this one first. We removed the saturation. We removed the gain. Let's do this. Show only modified properties. So we got this. We got this. We got this. This. Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's Sasha's old lookup table. Cool. No, we're gonna get rid of that one as well. Um, okay, so round two. So I like this, but I want some more greenishness in some of the things. So let's try out something. Uh, whoops. Let's turn this one off. So okay, so white balance, I'm just gonna slightly change this. Just super slightly. And now I'm gonna go into the shadows and let's go in here and do something like this. So now we're actually getting more greenish shadows, but we're still like keeping our other values intact. Where am I? Shadows here. So do you see that? How I started like filling the shadows with more green and kind of like preserving the rest of the stuff? Alright. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to global And I want to use a tiny little bit of gain, 1.2, and I want to use a tiny little bit of offset, like this. So that made the image a tiny little bit flatter, and that is okay. And now I just wanted to make a little bit more room so I can crank it back together with some contrast. Kind of like this. Sweet. And this is also very important. I did not really do many tweaks right now. Like most of the stuff already came from my lighting, and I don't want to have some super crazy post-processing on this. And sometimes it's like it's even simpler than you think because you're just like shifting around a tiny little bit, but you actually don't need to like go super crazy with your post-processing all the time. Most people, they just like post-process their stuff way too much. Um, so what I also want to do is, and that's something that I personally like a lot, I want to clip the whites because you get that when you film stuff with cameras, often in regards to how the exposure works, like whites or like bright lights, they just clip to white, and I think it kind of like increases the realism a little bit. So if you look at this, you can look at the back here where the exit of the cave is, and also on the highlights maybe. So if I start clipping this, do you see how it kind of like becomes this overblow thing on the right with the light as well? And personally, I like that. I think it looks more cinematic actually. So this is what I'm like kind of doing, clipping those. We might want to lower those lights more. Maybe like 500. Yeah. Yeah, I think this works better. Cool. Um, so you can see here it clips as well. Um, what I also like to do is use image effects. So I'm a huge fan of grain and vignette. That's just my personal preference. So I'm gonna go 0.6. So you can see now I feel it frames the image better like this. So now we got more vignette, but I think it actually helps us to look. Some of these shots really start to become nice as shots, like this. So I love some bit stronger vignette. That's my personal taste. Then I want to add grain because I just really love grain. I think it's so cool. I was so mad at BioWare when they released Mass Effect 3 and they completely dropped the grain. I was like, what? I play the game only for the grain. No, so yeah, I love my grain. 0.2 maybe is a bit better. I guess you won't really see it. I don't want to make it too grainy. 0.15 maybe. Yeah. Also, some slight chromatic aberration can be nice. So let's have a look at the white line here. Uh, okay, I think maybe that line top up here is like a better example. That's just that stuff. Uh, yeah, I think that might actually be okay. Cool. So we got that. Um, we can also look at our bloom, what we want to do with it. I mean, we can always change it via the threshold as well. So just push it up a tiny little bit. Kind of like this. So we got our dirt mask. We can also bring that one back. I think the texture is not really the nicest one. So if you look at this, that's not very nice. However, let's see. I might have some stuff laying around. Oh yeah, I actually do. So let's quickly check this. Textures. Rip lens. So I have like gazillions of lens textures. That I just like downloaded, I think from some like Skyrim or Oblivion modding website, and they were using like ENB series stuff or something like that, you know, uh, for like their graphic mods basically, and that was pretty cool because it was like meant for like for this ENB mod, and you could just like download it for like Skyrim or Oblivion to have like lens dirt. And I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need. And it's like a gazillion of like lens dirt textures and stuff like that. And I'm just like using those ones for my Unreal stuff because it just like works nicely out of the box. So you can see tons of lens dirt textures. And so what we can do is we can first of all we can like crank this up. A funny thing is like also, so you know, like now this is the slider, right? But you can just like put in a value that is like 20 or 50. Like it doesn't really matter what the slider says. So here, oh yeah, here we got a nice light. So not really good looking texture. So let's see. Maybe start with this one. Or there's so many of them. So many. Because I think it shouldn't be too dirty or like too like scratched or something like that. It could be more like something like this. But I still have more. Let's import. Textures, lens dirt, optical flares, elements, glass. Yeah, there we got some good stuff. I also have like bokeh shapes and stuff like that. So it's always good to have like a selection of those textures laying around because they're just like always nice to have. So it's still importing. Just gonna save all my stuff quickly. So now I just imported some textures that have more, not only bokeh shapes but also like little dirt splatters and stuff like that, because I think this is what was like nice with the texture Sasha chose, but I just thought it was a little bit too messy. Um, so now we got like stuff like this, for example. So you can see here how we like get dirt and stuff like that. Um, I have quite a few of these now. It's a little bit sad that there's not many like bokeh shapes on them. It's like either you get the dirt or you get the bokehs, but you don't get like both of it. Ah, yep, that's that's the one. So funny. Do you see that swirl here? Like this texture, it's like so overused. It's like every second game that has like these lens dirts has exactly this texture with the swirl here. So it's like when you work a lot with these things, like at some point, you start like noticing those little patterns. So I think intensity wise, that's also fairly decent. Um, I'm gonna make a subfolder quickly for my bokeh shapes, and I'm gonna import some bokeh shapes as well. So let's take these. So, and I'm going to bring back. So now look at this. Now we got like bokeh shapes, and the cool thing is we can use them for depth of field, but we can also use them for the lens flares. And I'm quickly gonna show that. You might remember that I told you that I'm not a big fan of lens flares. Um, because I don't like that you have not a lot of influence on how the lens flares should be, right? Um, because it's like all procedural and stuff. You can't have anamorphic lens flares and things like that. Um, However, you can have a bokeh shape. So let's enable the lens flare or not. Ah, there is lens flare. Look at the lens flare. Isn't it beautiful? I hate it. So, well, the first things that you need to do is you need to actually tweak those distances because it's just completely wrong like that. Um, so you can do that here. Here the tints, the alpha is actually the distance of the element. So you can tweak these distances. So what I want to do is I actually want to use a different shape now for the lens flare, and I'm gonna use this texture. No. Huh? Why is it randomly picking other textures? Come on. So, this one. So you can see now I get this more like sci-fi lens flare kind of thingy. Um, so what I'm also gonna do is um, I will start tinting them a little bit. Ja, ja, ja. Okay. And now we just gonna have a look into this. So see that? So here you can move them around, right? And what you want to do is you kind of want to tweak them in a way where it kind of like just looks a bit better. It's not perfect. try to make them larger as well, maybe. See how we get some J.J. Abrams action going here? Well, okay, so now we can just reduce the intensity back again, so we just get some super subtle. And you know, like now it already feels so much more customized, and it doesn't feel like the boring default stuff that you get all the time, which is like it's just so annoying that all of that stuff always looks the same. At least I think so. Rep. Cool. So now we can have see like I think this looks much better. But again, like all these settings are still fairly strong now, and depending on what look you're after, you're like you might not want to have it that strong. Dirt mask 20, I think. Yeah. So you can see we get some subtle lens flares. I'm gonna bring the dirt mask up again. So, all right. So if we look at all that stuff here, we can, I mean, we have a lot of places on this map now where we can do some really nice screenshots, and we really have some very good looking um, corners in this environment here. So one last thing that I want to do before we call it a day, we're gonna click this light here, and we're gonna turn it back on. And we're gonna save all, and we're gonna run the scene. And if I can make it, I will also export a rendered video of the, like Sasha had these video settings, right? And he recorded his thing. So I might record the same thing again. So that's it. That is our new scene here. So we actually have it a lot more defined looking. We have a lot better like quality overall here. We have some super nice subsurface and cave entrance stuff going on here. And obviously we also have like a pretty sexy shot when we come around this corner here. I mean, like this stuff here, it's pretty nice. Whoops. So yeah. Yeah, and you can see I have some problems here with my texture streaming pool. I'm just using way too many high resolution light maps, and I shouldn't. So yeah, again, just with opening up Photoshop. So this is where we started the session, and this is kind of like where we are now, and then we started doing some grading, and now we're basically here, but a little bit more like the red light obviously from the other shot. But yeah, so this is it for this scene. I like the lens flares like this. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something and you had fun following along with this. I talked to Sasha, and we might actually release this scene, so you can. It will be the old scene though, so it's not the scene that I have now. It will be the scene so you could basically rebuild the stuff as well and compare your results. So yeah. Yeah, we can actually have quite a lot of cool shots here. Yeah, so again, that's it. The scene is done, and I think it turned out really, really nice. So let me know what you guys think. Have fun watching the videos, and yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.